Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Sunday, the 21st of January, 2024. We're publishing our gold and silver weekly update for the week ending the 19th of January. Precious metal prices were lower last week, though they did rise towards the end. But we're more concerned about this coming week. Why? Let's take a look. Now first, just a quick reminder, we've set up a second channel entitled Finances Do Matter, covering a whole array of financial topics, and we've actually hit 10,000 subscribers. We've placed a link in the description box and comment section below for those who've not yet joined that channel. Okay, what happened to precious metals? Well, gold fell $19 last week, falling from 2049 to 2030, having been as high as 2058 and as low as 2002, a fall of almost 1%. In sterling terms, it was down £9 at £1,598, and in euros it was down €8 at 1,863 euros. Now, we doubt that it will happen, but if gold can be picked up below £1,500, it will, in our view, be a bargain. Silver fell 58 cents, falling from $23.20 to $22.62, having hit a high of $23.35 and a low of $22.45, but this is a fall of 2.5% compared with gold's fall of 1%. In sterling terms, silver closed at £17.83, that's down 39 pence on the week, and in euros it closed at 20.77 euros, that's down 0.44 euros. Obviously, the gold to silver ratio went up, and it rose from 88.3 to 1 to 89.7 to 1. Will it reach 90 this coming week? It's quite possible. Bitcoin stands at $41,751. That's down $973 on the week. That's now a $2,000 roughly dollar fall in the past 2 weeks. Equities were up, save the UK FTSE. I really must put more of my money into American markets than the UK. Certainly at the moment. The Dow Jones closed up 271 points at 37,863. The S&P 500 closed up 56 at 4,839. And the Nasdaq was up 338 points at 15,310. Alas, the FTSE index was down 163 points at 7,461. Perhaps a bargain for the long term. Or maybe not. Oils were marginally higher. Brent crude up 27 cents, standing at $78.56, and WTI crude up 73 cents at 73.41. Dollar index was also up nearly a point, 0.88 at least of a point, at 103.29. Now, last week we predicted gold would trade between 2020 and 2100, which it did, but it did encroach for a very brief time into our outlier range towards the lower level. It hit $2,002 against our outlier of 2000. Silver we forecast would trade between 2250 and 24, with 22 to 25 as outliers. Again, it traded broadly and closed within our trading range, but very briefly entered into our outlier range towards the bottom by just 5 cents. Last week we were a little concerned about the CPI figures ticking up, but felt the geopolitical conflict would support gold and silver a little more than any loss that could be incurred on not great inflation data. That said, although markets did open up as we predicted, they quite quickly fell back, but then started to recover again towards the end of the week. In our last update, we said to watch out for retail sales on Wednesday, which were much higher than anticipated, up 0.6% compared with 0.3% the previous month and expectations of 0.4%. Even retail sales minus automobiles were double the percent rise compared with November, coming in at 0.4%. Initial jobless claims for the week were also down nearly 20,000 jobs, thereby showing a degree of robustness in the economy, and not really what economists and policymakers wanted to see, as it suggests that interest rates may not be reducing inflation as much as hoped. Now, any doubts about this factor will either be confirmed or undermined this coming Friday when the PCE index for December is announced. Just a reminder, two major measures of inflation in the US, PCE and CPI. There is an expectation that core PCE will rise from 0.1 to 0.2% for the month. And if this proves higher, then we could see a further strengthening of the US dollar and gold and silver prices taking a bit of a hit. Personal income figures for December, which are also being announced on Friday, are expected to fall to positive 0.3% compared with 0.4%. And again, if this does not happen and those rates do not decline, again, it will not be regarded as good news by policymakers. So most attention will be focused on next Friday. We should still not ignore the effect that the geopolitical conflict pitting Iran against Israel and the United States is having and will continue to have on markets and precious metal prices. Increasing hostilities between Ukraine and Russia should also not be ignored or discounted. So what do we envisage is likely to happen to gold and silver prices over the next couple of weeks? Well, gold recovered a little on Thursday and Friday. On Tuesday, gold prices fell around $20, primarily because Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester stated that the idea of a rate cut in March is probably too early. We would tend to agree. Had the Fed been a little more aggressive last year and raised rates a little higher and sooner, we would very well be looking at a cut in March. But that is not to be. Coupled with comments from other Fed governors and officials, the narrative at the moment suggests that the Federal Reserve believes that rate cuts will come down much more likely in the second quarter of this year rather than the first quarter. You see, one of the main reasons, though, that gold rebounded on Thursday and continued to rise was primarily due to escalating geopolitical tensions prompted by continued attacks by the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. This is why we state do not ignore this factor. So on the one side, we have gold potentially under pressure because of a strengthening dollar and rates not likely to fall until later in the year. And on the other side, investors fleeing towards safe haven assets like gold because of the geopolitical conflicts around the world. The question is which one will dominate, and it's very difficult to assess that fact because we do not know how far this escalation will carry. Silver took a little bit more of a hit, but seems pretty well supported at the $22 level, for now at least. We're more comfortable with the $21 support level until we see the PCE figures next Friday. Now, bearing in mind that no one can predict what will happen geopolitically at this stage, we're giving a slightly wider spread on where we expect gold and silver to move this coming week. Gold, we believe, will trade between $1980 and $2090. With $1,960 being the floor and $2,120 being the ceiling, or as we call them, outliers. We expect silver to trade between $21.75 and $23.75, $2 spread, with $21.25 and $24.25 as outliers, a $3 spread. What do you think? Please do share your thoughts below. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. We'd appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up, subscribe and press the bell sign. Pop on over to Finances Do Matter and subscribe there if you have not done so. And as we say at the conclusion of each of our updates, we hope you have a safe, enjoyable weekend and prosperous week ahead.